listened to one of our episodes before or watched us live here, you will not be totally surprised to see the greatest man alive, Patrick Trimpe, here with me. Patrick, welcome.
Welcome. Nice to be back, Max. Nice to be back. I expected you first, actually. Now with the greatest, the greatest man alive.
Yes.
Marcus Max.
What he's doing? Yeah.
So, what is that? So the sixth commandment today, right, Max?
Yes, we are talking about our 10 commandments. And today we're talking about commandment number 6, SalesMates speak last. And we're trying to learn from Stephen Covey, one of the grand masters. And before we dive in, a quick info again, as always. If you follow us through all 10 episodes, you can get the Tribe polo shirt, the SalesMade polo. It's something you cannot buy. This is something you guys earn. We may even put you through a test and an interview at the end to see if you are worth it. And if you are seeing this on YouTube, you can also follow us on Facebook Live. You can post your questions in the chat, and that will give us an opportunity to reply and look at your questions and so forth. So, and in today's episode, this is about listening, and it's one of the 10 things that we think are important to turn your sales upside down so your company can actually survive. And Patrick, when we talk about listening, I mean, what's so wrong about not listening? I mean, we're used to talking, aren't we?
We are. Everybody likes to talk, right? It was also in one of these classic books. What was it? How to Win Friends and Influencing People. Actually, one of the best sales books. Even though it's not necessarily about sales, it's about winning friends. And I think mainly about winning friends, but that's the same that we do in sales, right? Trying to, or winning the trust of somebody else. And I don't know. Do you have a lot of friends that you got by them talking to you and not letting you talk and not interested about what you do or anything else? Did you win a lot of friends this way? I don't know. I think I haven't. It usually grows suspicious, but in general, what it shows is the person is knowledgeable. Wow, nice, educated, also nice, and they kind of try to convince me. If you have this, this feeling, they try to convince me of something. Is that a good feeling to have as the other party? I think you should think about from their perspective. What is it? Think about the last time you met someone and this person talked 90% and you 10%, and then you became best friends. When did that happen the last time?
Yeah, or vice versa, right? I mean, how much would you like to be friends with somebody who doesn't listen to you at all, right? They just talk you into stuff.
Yes.
And then expect you to be all excited and yeah. That's different. That's difficult, of course, absolutely. And but I mean, we're talking about professional salespeople, right? These guys are knowledgeable. They are very educated around the product and what's possible with the product. They are, sometimes you have to convince the customer sometimes to like force them into what's good for them. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I probably don't like the word force because it sounds not very nice, and it's kind of like you put them into something where they're it's not necessarily at their best, right? That's not forcing. I think the customer, it's a little bit different. You don't force the customer. You help. I would use help. You help them uncover things that they haven't realized were so detrimental or so big that they thought, you help them uncover stuff more than you don't force them into something. You help them. That's at least my point of view when you say this. So yeah, and in today's world, I mean, we both know how that came, you know, like 5 or 10 years ago. Let's say 10 or 15 years ago. Information wasn't as easily available than today. So the idea to invite a salesperson was mostly to show me what you have, you know, and then that's basically how it happened. Show me what you have, right? That I think that's how it grew. I don't know why that is the case. I still have that in my meetings as well. People wanna just know what you do.
Yeah.
That came from early. They today they can inform themselves. They usually know someone who's already using your software. That's happening, right? The recommendations or something, so they can actually talk to those people. So they 20, 15, 20 years ago, yeah, they probably needed someone who just educating them on exactly your technology or whatever, and they didn't think about it otherwise. But I think that's no longer the case, as you say, as you know, it's no longer the case. Asymmetry. We have to assume that the customer knows a lot already when you get into a call. Knows that they may know a lot or not a lot already, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I sometimes meet customers. I remember well when we, for instance, when we were building sales for Dynamic CRM with some system integrator, we really met customers who knew much more about the product than the sales team did, and they were like up to date, and they had visited these virtual conferences that Microsoft was doing, and they even installed trials and got their hands on JavaScript and stuff. So it's but that's new, right? For most salespeople, especially, that's a very new thing, that they are no longer in this role, and the customer doesn't want them in that role anymore. To be Mr. Know-it-all and talk and talk and talk and do their standard 150 slides show. I totally agree. Yeah, but what do customers need
I
really?
think that's one case. Something else probably, Max. I'm not sure what you think about that, but 20 years ago, there weren't so many technology companies out there, right? So customers more often probably approached those companies and said, "Hey, we've heard you have Oracle, for instance." I think Oracle didn't have to do much outbound sales, reaching out to non-existing customers, and at some point they just got approached by a lot by people, and they just wanted to learn and see, and wanted to have a demo. Today, if we look on the market, I mean, every other day a new startup is coming somewhere up, right? Even in Switzerland. I mean, I'm a little bit in the startup world, so I see a lot of new startups coming up, and those startups all want something of the pie. And even though they think they're not really competitors, most startups compete today for the money that the company has to spend. Yes, obviously, if you sell to HR and somebody else is selling to IT, you're not directly competing, and the budgets are probably already made very often. But those people can also create budget, and you're still kind of competing, at least for attention. And that's the difference. So today, we reach out to people. Most young companies, or I mean, if you're a startup and started the last 10 years, you have to reach out to customers at the beginning, almost certainly. I mean, okay, there are still those who can wait for the inbound leads for sure, but many more have to reach out.
Yeah.
So you grab the interest, and one of the things that I thought was the toughest to do, because we all know it's important to listen and to ask questions. We really mean it. I mean, you have to, before you start to talk about your product, you have to listen. But that's sometimes extremely, extremely hard, because you had a sales reaching out to your potential customer, to your prospect, and the prospect thinks, sounds interesting. I want to learn more. So they come into your first meeting with exactly the same attitude as they had the past 20 years, as has basically grown. I've had like 200 sales calls in the past year, and when I ask people about what's your expectation today, everybody says, I'm looking forward to hear about your product.
Impress me, right? To make a great
I'm
show.
looking forward to the AI you've got.
Yeah. I mean, this is also a good opportunity for you, isn't it? So, right?
Amazing.
It's really like if you try to break out of these old patterns, the customer doesn't. They are like exactly as used to this systematic approach as we are, as the sales fraction, right?
Yes.
And very interesting thing that Mahan Khalsa writes a ton about. And when we talked through this, Patrick, we said like, yeah, sometimes you feel you have to inspire people, especially when you do outreach. It may feel like you have to show something, and we say like, inspire as much as you need, as late as you can, right? Because the ultimate break in your sales process, the decelerating factor is objections and lack of trust. So the more we speak, the more we convey concepts that the customer feels don't match, the more they will slow everything down by months and months, right? So you enjoy the 10 minutes of talking, they will cost you a month or two, right?
Yeah.
30 minutes straight talk, and you're like 6 months behind, right? That's so, and that is because the customer today seeks a sparring partner. And a good sparring partner can potentially, it's like a doctor. I mean, how would somebody prescribe you with a knee surgery if they never listen to you? And how much would you want to undergo that knee surgery, right? After, I mean, even if they don't listen. So you said you have a good idea on how to inspire people less later in the process. How are you doing that?
Yeah. So when you think about the best first call, you have the first call with your customer, and let's assume they came in by outbound. I think with inbound, it's usually easier to bring the people to talk and ask the right questions, right? Because sometimes, or most of the time, they came to you and you want to know the reason. So you know exactly what you have to do at the beginning. You ask them for the reason why they approached you, and then hopefully you try to ask a bit deeper question. But I see also one problem here before I get to the how I do it with outbound. When I see on websites from a lot of tech companies and other companies as well, but tech companies especially, because they do demos, right? So as a potential prospect, you can most often click on a button that says show me demo. I want to see a demo, right? That's exactly what demo sometimes just says demo on that button, or claim the demo or something like that. That's very often what it says. Now think about what that makes with your potential prospect's brain. When he clicks that button, what he expects the next time he's talking, or the first time he's talking to someone, it's a demo, of course, because I was clicking that button that button that says claim your demo, right? So that's the first thing that I see that is done completely wrongly out there for most of the companies. We're talking, I mean, if you're very small tickets, $100, $100 a month, then okay, you do a demo also at the first meeting, but you still ask a few questions first. But I would change that first. So if you see that on your company, you see that demo button, try to convince marketing to change that to talk to an expert, for instance. That's much more what you want to do in the first meeting. So that's the first thing. That's for the inbound. Now outbound is usually tougher, right? You approach someone that got interested, and he or she wants a meeting now. So she's coming into that call, and most of the time when we at my company where I work, we only get outbound leads basically. So I ask for the expectations first of these people when we do the introduction round, and these people most of the time say, "Hey, I want to see what you have today. I'm looking forward to see what you have." So think about a best process. What do you want to do? You want to have this introduction round, then you want to ask questions, and in the end you want to show that person in like 5 or 10 minutes what you can do for them based on what that person says.
Yeah.
So what you have to do at the beginning is set the expectations right and be very assertive with how you know very well what's the most efficient sales process. And it's not the most efficient when you just had this story, Max. Somebody talked to you for 20 minutes and nothing was relevant for you, right? You don't want to talk for 20 minutes about stuff that is not relevant for your customer. So you want to know first what's relevant for them. So what I do at the beginning, I say, dear customer, can I make a proposal about how we go about our meeting today? So the customer is all of the time they say yes, of course. So let's do a first introduction round. Then let me ask you a few questions so that in the third step I can give you very exact information what we believe we can do for you to make to make the time use today most effective for all of us. Is that okay for you? Yes, that's okay for me. Then we do the introduction round of the expectations and everything. And after the introduction round, I say again, so let me ask you a few questions again to, get a little bit deeper so that I can give you very exact information afterwards. Is that still okay? Yeah, it's still okay. And then it's fine. I mean, if you do exactly this way, it works all the time, and you can ask your questions afterwards. Of course, your questions need to be good, and it's quite tough, I think, to figure out the right questions and not to stop too early. No idea what your experience is with. One last thing, I have been talking very long now. One last thing, what I see when it comes to asking questions afterwards. I mean, one thing is the technique so that you can ask the questions, and then even like 80% is still what questions you ask. And one issue I saw there, one problem, that a lot of sales struggle is when you ask something like, what do you want to achieve? What's your goal? Or what do you want to achieve? And people say, we want to become more efficient. And the sales is like, oh, more efficient. Perfect.
We can help you there.
Something else.
We got a workflow foundation. Can we make you efficient, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So more efficient. And then they stop. They don't ask what that means. What does more efficient mean exactly to you? And then ask, and as we get back to the why method that we talked in the first commandment that comes here in, but ask whys and go deeper. Don't be happy with the first answer you get. And that's it. So that's I think a little bit of the technique that works really well out there for sure.
So you're getting their buy-in for a resorted. We're talking about turning sales upside down all the time, right? And we talked about one of our teachers in the last few episodes, Michael Simon, and we talked about Mahan Khalsa with his great book that he's written, Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. And it's interesting how these guys are, like with all their experience, they are like super certain that trust is the main denominator of the length of a sales process, right?
Exactly.
And so we're resorting the sales procedure deliberately to let the customer understand that we have to ask questions, because out of these billions of options that are available in today's technology, you expect us to make suggestions that meet your needs, and you are. It's fine. I mean, you have every right to demand so, right? You have every right to use our experience. And so I mean, that is something that is also very interesting. Stephen Covey also said that most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. So to give themselves a voice, right? And we really have to drop that notion. We really have to get rid of that. So our SalesMade commandment here is that we listen. We listen, and we're following Stephen Covey's habit here and say, like, we seek to first understand, then to be understood, for a multitude of reasons. So, and that brings us like to the second piece of this episode, right? When we speak last, everything changes. And this is something that salespeople, especially the more seasoned they are, the more they are used to. They are making their deals by showing the slideshow. They are making their deals by doing the presentation. And that's a learning, right? It's like going to the roulette table, and sometimes you win, you will return to the table.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
So how would they ever find out that they can win by not going to the table, right? It doesn't make sense, right? But once you've been there and you see that how easy it is for you as in the sales role, how much you can lay back, be relaxed, breathe easy, and just be empathetic, and just be on the same page, and just be curious, and then help your customer think deeper, challenge their thinking by asking a few questions. And most of these questions are a version of why. I mean, without being offensive, we're of course we're rephrasing. We're saying like, okay, what are you trying? Where are you trying to get to? What got you thinking in that direction? What are you trying to achieve, and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our goal is to through those questions, and those questions can also be like, hey, what is the importance of topic for your business, right? What is the importance of information security for your strategy? What is the importance of up-to-date financial information in your decision making? What is the importance of a great video content for your customer acquisition in the near future, and so forth, right? And then you can also go and say like, okay, what were some of the alternative ways to get there that you have on your list, right? And are you open for more? You can go a lot of miles by just asking questions. And so we get the most basic choices to the table and get the customer to make the right decision. And when we say right decision, we talked about that in the last episode, it's the right decision for them, of course. Now, most tech organizations have brilliant stuff. It's really useful. So, and that is leading to this nice win-win situation where the customer making the right decision for themselves a lot of times is also a decision for an investment in this technology, but it's always a tied-in decision that not only lets them invest in the technology, it will also help them do the change management and use the stuff. They're already buying it. Why shouldn't they use it, right? And most of the time, the more salespeople talk to customers, the more likely the customer will buy stuff they never use. And how good is that for extending the contract 2 years from now, right? It's poison. It's poison. It's painful. Yeah, and then we also had a conversation around, we weren't sure how to name it. Is it currencies or is it KPIs or do we want, what do we want to call it?
Sometimes, yeah, that's true. Sometimes metrics, currencies. I think currencies is fine.
What
Probably.
do we mean by that?
Sorry?
What do we mean by that?
Yeah. So we mean by that, sometimes it's obvious, or sometimes not it's obvious, but sometimes the goals of your customer is bring in more revenue. Sometimes they want to become more efficient. Sometimes they can even put a number behind that. That's the best thing. Sometimes they want to lower the risk, but it's not necessarily one of these three always. I mean, imagine a marketing department. They probably not always need to gain or win revenue as a first KPI or metrics or currency, but their currency can be how many active users does the product get within a month, something like this. That can be the one KPI they are focusing on. And if you help them to improve that one KPI, obviously, yes, that afterwards leads to more revenue and whatever. That's for sure. At some point in behind is always revenue and cost efficiency, and not always. I mean, there are obviously also a lot of NGOs and NPOs out there who don't really care about that. But in the end, so very often it's this. But you need to find out which one it is, which currency is your customer caring for.
Yeah, and it's easy to assume that it's going to be revenue or profit or something because we heard it 1,000 times. We learned it in our 101 business training, right? That everybody wants to earn more money. And with the rise of social entrepreneurship, with the rise of more and more organizations and Greta Thunberg-like movements, and Bill and Melinda and Bill Gates foundations and so forth, sometimes it's easy to show up at a modern startup and try and talk to them how you can help them make more profit, and how you can help them gain more revenue, and how you can help them save cost. And they will tell you that they're not looking into those currencies. They're not interested in those numbers. And that's your last opportunity to ask, right? Like, okay, what is it then that gets you going? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning?
Yeah.
They can say, yeah, we're looking into, like, I don't know, square meters scanned, or we're looking into indoor, like Navis in Munich, who are doing brilliant services for lifting the curtain of the indoor world, right? That is widely a blackout scenery. Or we want to make experts more accessible, like StarMind in Switzerland. Or, like, some people are saving kids' lives in Africa, and that is everything they care for. And you are not helping these people by talking about their additional revenue when they already freak out about getting rid of their money, right? And sometimes startups in early stages, it's all about market share, and they need to get to that certain level of market share in the next 6 months, or they will never ever have an opportunity to reach their financial goals later in their life, right? And it's easy to find out about these things if we listen. And yeah, sometimes it's always something they get out of an investment that they're looking to get out there, and there will be a number. That's important. There has to be a number. What that number is, they will tell us. We just have to ask. But we should, like you said earlier, sometimes we forget to ask, and that's also bad, right?
Yeah.
We don't know, we don't dare to tell them, and then we just let the topic pass. And then after the meeting, you sit there and you're trying to come up with a good suggestion, and you find out you don't even know what they're after, right? So we have to ask. Yeah. And if we manage to listen better and more deeply and ask good questions and so forth, if we really come to the customer with that idea to understand what changes, what is it good for? What do you think? What's your experience?
First of all, first of all, it's a different experience for your customer. He's used to people, and they do that as well, as we just said. They come in with the expectations that you do a demo, but because they don't know it better. That's the third point, actually, that I wanted to mention as well. So the third point is because they are so used to going into a sales call and getting a demo at the first call without even getting a question asked, that they expect this from you as well. So when you don't do it, when you start with asking questions, being interested, they realize, okay, this guy is interested in solving my problem, not in selling me something. And that is a true differentiator these days. I mean, you talked about trust before. Trust is the thing that reduces the sales cycle by the most, and I fully agree with this. So imagine how much you build trust by first listening and then talking. And the second thing is, imagine how more efficient your talking becomes afterwards. I mean, I usually have 45 minutes in our first meeting, or my team. And the first 35 minutes they talk, and I say everything that needs to be said in 5 minutes. I either say, we don't really see a case, or I say, hey, I think there we have potential, let's look in deeper. Or I say, hey, I mean, we have there this and this, exactly what covers your challenge. So I think we should definitely continue our discussion, and that's it. So you're so much more efficient with saying what you want to say compared to when you talk 20 minutes and only 20% is important for your customer. So that's a real change. And I mean, you will just have better discussions. It's just more fun. it's also more fun to have a real discussion, a meaningful discussion with someone. I don't think it's meaningful when the other. Let's get back to the start, as like one of our last things today. I mean, it's not a meaningful discussion when somebody's talking 90% and you are talking 10%. That can't be called a meaningful discussion. You can't connect.
Absolutely.
And that's it. I mean,
in this connection piece, right? That's where the magic happens. Because if you can, I mean, as long as they're speaking, you I mean, you're listening, and you're listening deeply, and ideally you're taking notes, right? So they don't have to tell you 3 times. It also gives you time to map in you like get this 3D understanding of what they're talking about, which will help you to ask even better questions because you see the gaps, right? There's always something you have no clue about yet, and that will get you to ask good questions. And that will also, if you have a chance to map out in your mind how you could potentially help them, really help them, right? What is it that you could do that will really be useful? And then you can repeat what you hear, and all of the sudden they hear you articulate their thoughts. That adds to the report, right? To this connection. And they hearing their own thoughts from you will make them think that you are actually a very smart person and trustworthy. And then as soon as you come up with a suggestion, not only will it be a good fit, they will already expect it to be a good fit, which will then add to the trust game, right? And will accelerate the cycle. And so it becomes a win-win, right? You are making suggestions that are like brutally on point. And we really had customers write love letters, and we tried this process at scale, right, with a group of customers who didn't know each other, who didn't know us, and we just handed them a workbook which said like, okay, let's talk about your challenges, like let's talk about the vision, where are you going, what are you seeing, what's coming up, what do you wish to you get more help with. And after the meeting, they said like they were like, I'm sure you will become the #1 software vendor for this space, and so forth. You get people all excited because they're not used, like you said earlier, they're not used to people listening, right?
Yes.
And,
great ending, Max. I think that was that's I fully agree. It's transformational. It's transformational how your discussions become. When you start like this. Now you heard even a few techniques and tactics, how you're going to do it, things that you could adapt immediately and apply for your part to become a better listener and a better asking questions. We haven't deep that in, but to contact us, I think, if you want to know exactly what kind of questions make the most sense at what time. I think that's something that we could cover. Otherwise, we could go deeper into this. Some other points not part of the 6th commandment. Now, I think you can, based on what we said, become a better listener, and I hope that was useful.
Hopefully. So guys, in front of the screen, we want you to try this and give us a feedback. Just shout out here. Let us know if it worked for you. Let us know what's missing. Do you want some feedback on your current methodology, on your current approach? Let us know also. We're here to help. We're here to talk. And really try and understand that vision the customer already has, that end in mind. And then you can explain everything you want to do for them, but you can also explain what it means for them, what it contributes to their mission, to them flying to Mars, whatever that is, right? And we're talking to you next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in again. Shoot us a comment below here. What are your key learnings and what do they mean for your professional work? And what else would you like to understand better from us? We have a lot of episodes left after those commandments. And we wish you a very successful week. Thank you very much. Patrick, thanks for tuning in again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. See you next week, guys.
See you next week when we sundown every Tuesday. Take care.
Take care.